Okay. Nigerian Dima, home ho. Okay, that's it. Now English. My name is Frederic Gooris, and I have an industrial design studio a few streets away from here. And James asked me to come talk about the 2 gold awards that we won this year. One is the, hey, it's part out of the screen. One is the pop-up booster, and the other one is the Roller Go luggage. Is there a way we can fix the screen, or? Okay, it's not fitting, no. Sorry about that. Okay. Well, I can. Yes. All right. So, but rather than talk about the objects themselves, I thought it would be more interesting to talk a little bit about how we made them. And for that, I'm going to take you back a little bit. When I started to study design, the context was quite different than today. You basically were trained to make beautiful things because obviously ugly things, they don't sell very well. So you had factories, you have distribution, you have shops. So there's a whole system in place, and our role was basically to be the gatekeepers of good taste in all that in order to make the economy roll. If we fast forward to today, a lot of things have changed. Now it's normal to have a phone in your pocket, to have GPS in your pocket. When I was studying, my first mobile phone was the size of a brick, basically. You would walk over the street like that because it was so big. So there is a lot of things that changed. So, but I can use a simple example. When we were finishing a late project, well, you wanted to take out Chinese. What you had to do was get up, go down the stairs, leave the school building, walk a few blocks, go to the Chinese restaurant and order a number 15, 34, and 75, wait for them to prepare the food for you, and take it back. Today, all you need to do is pull out your phone, and with Food Panda and the likes, you have access to more or less any menu of any restaurant in town, and it's delivered to your door. That is a very different experience. And basically, that's what it's all about now. It's all about the experience. When we design products, the discussion whether form follows function or function follows form, it became obsolete. It's really form follows the experience. It's all about the experience. So how do we go about designing the right experience for a product? And that's what I wanted to talk about with you. Obviously, designing an experience is something abstract. So we have a bit of a secret formula. I put it in a very small font so you can't take pictures of it. But of course, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that. There's 3 main things that need to be in every product that come together very nicely. There is a story. You need to have a good story in the product. You need to have innovation, and your product needs to make good business sense. Why do you need a good story? It's very simple. Few things are more powerful than a good story. Everybody loves a good story. It doesn't matter if you're young, if you're old, if you're from the east, if you're from the west, if you're from the north or from the south. Everybody would drop everything from the moment a good story is being told. So how do I know what is a good story? And here I love to quote John Steinbeck from the book East of Eden, because he nails it really well. If a story is not about the hearer, he will not listen. And here I make a rule. A great and interesting story is about everyone, or it will not last. That means you need to tap, as a designer, I need to design with what I know that you know, but you don't necessarily know that you know. Shall I say that again? I have to design with what I know that you know, but you don't necessarily know that you know. We make natural assumptions. We take things for granted. We have certain values because of the culture we have been raised in. Some of these things, of these cultural aspects, are global, some are local. Very simple example. If I would design a project around rent envelopes in Hong Kong or in China, people would immediately think, oh, money. If you're young, you go, whoo. If you're old, it's like, oh no, at that time of the year again. But if I would do red envelopes in Europe or in Africa, people would go like, what's that about? I have no idea. So you really need to find those right stories, because those stories will make the product talk to the final consumer. They will make the final consumer feel like that product has been designed just for you, even though it's a mass-produced object. And the second part why a story is very important, it is the foundation of the project. Once we start developing, so you present your concept to the customer, and then the development starts. Most of the time, it starts very beautiful with amazing renders, and what comes out is like, nah. That's most of the time the case. Why? Because it's based on styling. It's just the shape. Instead, if you have a good story, then that gives me the necessary freedom to navigate through the minds that will come along the way, which are economic restraints, technical restraints, and so on. I can still preserve my story at the end, while maybe the shape completely changed along the way. But generally, the project will get better along the way because of that. The second part is innovation. Now, innovation is very often presented as something way up there, that mainly it's in the realm of NASA and Apple and Google. Well, truth is, not really, because innovation is just 1% inspiration and 99% transpiration. My old mentor used to tell me, we tend to think of the world around us like a status quo. It is the way it is. It is not. It evolves all the time. Even we evolve. What we wanted when we were 10 years old was very different from what we wanted when we were 20 years old, 30, or don't even think what you want when you're 70 years old. Zoom out a little bit, and we are just a small part of a long chain that keeps going. So we, as a person and as a race, keep evolving, and so do the projects alongside with us. So innovation is not so much revolution, much more evolution. So getting those little steps ahead. So how do we do innovation when we get a project? We try to imagine what the project should be in the future, a few years down the line. Why is that? Because if I think for the project as of today, and I need 1 to 2 years to develop it, by the time it hits the market, it's already obsolete, it's already old. So today I need to think what my object will be like in the future, that by the time it comes out, it will be relevant and be perceived as new. So that's why we think about the project in the future, and then we build the roadmap together with the customer, like, okay, to achieve that, 80% is known how to get there, 20% is not. How are we going to get that? And we break that roadmap down, and that's how we're going to go about it over the course of the development of the project. Sorry. So the innovation part is basically the part that tells us stop worrying about how a project looks, worry about what it will do, what experiences it's going to deliver. So this is an important part. Here we need to switch very quickly from beautiful renders to quick and dirty prototypes. Get proof of concept of what you try to achieve is actually working. And those are not my words. That's the way they work in Google, that's the way they work in Apple. Of course, they have bigger budgets, but they go very quickly to rolling up the sleeves and actually do things. And the last pillar in the mix is business. Every project needs to have good common business sense. That's very important as well, because every period of peace in history, every civilization has always built on trade. If that element is not there, then your project does not have a place in society, and obviously it will not succeed. So don't even bother starting if you know already upfront that cost-wise your project will not be feasible. So now I'll illustrate how we apply that secret formula to the two objects that I'm going to present today. The first one is for the brand Bumble that we founded 11 years ago. And it started out the normal way, about making an object that is more beautiful. In this case, it was the baby bouncer that we started out with. When we found out that my wife was pregnant, we went to the baby store. You have all these screaming plastic furniture coming at you. It's quite a nasty experience. So as a designer, obviously, you need to be a little bit pretentious, and you say, I can do better than that. And that's how we started the brand. So what we did is we focused on the product and we made it in a way that the backrest can change by itself, so the child can choose the position. So you don't have to choose it for the child. And with the frame, with the patented 3D curves in the front, actually you extend the lifespan of the product from 6 months to 5 years. So it can evolve with the child. So you don't have to throw out the product after 6 months. We made the capital mistake, and we didn't know it then, to focus on the product and not on the experience. So the evolution was already set, but I didn't see it back then. So we restarted the brand 2 years ago, starting from a completely different angle. Think of yourself when you were a kid and you were interacting with the adults, and you always had a few boring ones, a few nasty ones, and every single one of us, every single one, made a promise at that moment, saying, I will never be like that. I will be the cool one. I will stay the sparky one. I will be the sparky source of fun that the kids deserve and they want to interact with. So starting from that, that became the foundation of the brand, basically. So how does that translate into products? The first one that we designed was with that new spirit, is the foldable booster, the pop-up booster. Why a pop-up booster? Because we designed the business model first and then the product. So I'll come to the business model afterwards. When we were young, this is what the boosters looked like, the phone book. It was very simple. You had a foldable chair, you put a phone book on top, throw the kid on top of that. You have the vacant stare of grandma on the other side of the table. What can possibly go wrong, you know? Instead, then internet came along, phone books disappeared, so there was no more solution. Before you went to the restaurant, they would put out a phone book and you were solved. Now, there was no more phone book. So then they invented the boosters, which used to be big plastic, bulky pieces. But when you want to leave the house, obviously you have a lot of stuff, plus the kid, last thing you need is also a big bulky booster. So that's why when I saw my kids play with pop-up books, the light went on and I was like, well, instead of sitting on top of the book, if I would open the book and have a full sofa that can come out, wouldn't that be nice? And that's how the project was born. Problem is that these things are just aesthetic, they are not structural. So if you want to actually raise a kid in a safe way, we needed to find a way to make a load-bearing structure that we can collapse. Now, load-bearing, most of the time, is built with, as you see there, with triangles, like bridges, cranes, because a triangle, even if all the points are hinges, the shape is always stable. If you go to a square, it can deform in any direction. So we needed to find a way to invent collapsible triangles, which we did, and that's actually the patent behind this product. So once we had the idea, okay, we need to have collapsible triangles, and it needs to be something that folds small, what we did was move as quickly as possible to making samples, really starting from just folding paper, understanding how the origami works, starting to make different structures to see what holds and what doesn't hold. We bought loads and loads of paper from the stationery store. We made hundreds of samples like that until we had one that we could close and open. So it's just paper of 1 millimeter, cut in all the different parts and stuck together with tape, and I could stand on it safely on a paper model. That was the moment that we knew that our design was safe from a construction point of view. Next step was then starting to play with materials that would go inside. We had to create a web of hinges. How are we going to make that one work? So the idea in the end was to make fabric, hard surfaces, fabric, and like that seal the hard pieces in the pockets of fabric. And that's how the final booster came along. The result is something that is small but super strong. And for those who don't believe me, I brought one. Here you have it. Just pull it open, that's it. And now, strong enough to stand on. The next part of the innovation was on the fabric, because we chose to go with fabric. Now, plastic boosters can be ugly, but they're practical, because when they're dirty, you just wipe them off or you hose them down. Fabric, on the contrary, stains. So there we worked with a Japanese manufacturer for over a year to find a coating for the fabric that is thick enough in order to protect the fabric, but if the coating became too thick, then it would interfere with the hinges. So in the end, we found a solution where we're managing to apply this coating that is non-toxic, because that was the hard part. You found many possibilities, but it needed to be non-toxic, with a precision of 0.05 millimeters. With that, we managed to solve it. And then we also added something simple, which is a fabric cover, because you always tell your kids, don't put your feet on the chair, but when they sit on a booster, they can't stay with their feet in the air all the time. So we add in the package a simple fabric cover that when you go to the restaurant, they have a beautiful fabric or leather chair. You put that on top and everybody happy. So the result is something that looks like mini adult furniture with fabric, upholstered, comfortable, but I can pour chili oil on there and just wipe it off. And then the business side. That's the last component that needed to work. We are a relatively new brand, and we saw our bouncer die a shelf dead in the stores, because people didn't understand what it's about. They walk into the store, they see the product, they see the price tag, they see a cheaper, more famous brand, they go for that. So we said, okay, we're going to be selling direct. We sell online, which this product, because it's folds small, it's easy to ship. The problem with that is that people won't buy an expensive product online if they cannot touch it, if they cannot feel it. So where would they need this product? How can we put it in their hands? When you think about it, you will need it when you eat, so restaurants and hotels. So we went to talk to the hotels and the restaurants. What is it that you want? Oh, we want a baby product that is light, doesn't take space, and is easy to set up. What do you know? It's exactly the same thing as the parents today want to be able to go out easily with their kids. So what happened now is we sell them to the hotels and the restaurants. People see them there, they try them there for the first time, their expectation is set. Then they might go to the store, they see the plastic one, they go like, yeah, but that one I cannot fold, it's not practical, it's cheap, but yeah, of course. So they go online, buy online, they start carrying it around to other restaurants, those restaurants start contacting us, they start buying. So instead of going head on with our competition and trying to get our message through in terms of marketing and so on as a startup, which was a fight that was lost from the front, we created a second market that will feed the first market, and the first market will feed the second market. And that strategy proves to be working. So I have a small video as well. Here, that was with a mouse click. There. So after all our homework, what we ended up with, this is what? There we go. Is with a sofa that you can fold and basically put away in your bag. The second product is a smart luggage, a carry-on. The project started when an electronics manufacturer came to me, and they invented a spinner wheel, a 360-degree wheel that can generate power. So when you walk normally, the four wheels together generate the same amount of power to charge your devices as if you were charging it plugged in the wall. It was a pretty amazing thing. The problem is they put it on a normal luggage, and he came with that to me and he said, can you help me to make it more beautiful, because it's ugly right now and I wouldn't buy it. That was the old way of thinking. So instead we took a different route and say, okay, who are the people that need these products? When I travel with my kids go like, I need to go to the bathroom. Can I have an orange juice? Can I? You don't have time to work with your phone or with your electronics. Instead, on the contrary, when you travel for business, you're expected to be productive while you're on the road. And that's the problem. Luggages today are designed to be practical when you use them at home to pack, to take your stuff from A to B, and when you arrive, then they're practical again. But while you're on the road, it's basically a dead weight that you're lugging along because it contains your stuff. So you say, okay, if the people that need power all the time are the people that travel for business, why don't we take inspiration from the old iconic travel trunks, like the Louis Vuitton ones? Because back then when you were traveling, you were not traveling in a rush from A to B. You were traveling 10 days, 1 month, 2 months, and your home was in these transformer boxes. And wherever you stopped, you put those boxes down, tuk, 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 and I have my bar, tuk, 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 and I have my shoe closet, tuk, 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 and I have my desk. So can we not compress this, WinZip this into a today modern luggage and make my carry-on actually designed as a mobile office that is self-charging? And that's how the project started. And that's what I meant before. When you have a strong story that you know that will appeal to people, it gives me the freedom. It doesn't matter. I could have designed this product in 1,000 ways, still staying true to the original idea, and yet accommodating the economic and the technical aspects. So we started by, obviously, when you need to work, you need a flat surface. Hong Kong Airport is a bit of an exception, where you have more lounges than toilets, but most places where you travel around, you don't. And in Europe especially, and in the US, when you travel for business, you try to save money, so you fly with the low-cost carriers from B airports. You're lucky if you have a chair already. So we needed a surface to work from. So we designed it in a way that the top is completely flat, and with an easy compartment at the top where you have all your stuff. Because when you go through to the process, you have your sunglasses are here, your wallet is there, your passport is in another place, and so on. So one compartment where you can keep everything. Then most trolleys in the front, they have the zipper for your books and your magazines, but once it's fully loaded, then you try to catch your magazine, you scratch your hands because the zipper is tensed. Instead, we made a magnetic door that goes around the corner, so you can just slide in your magazines and your books and nothing can fall out. And at the same time also, it would cover the ugly TSA lock. Once I go to security, it's enough to open the zipper just a little bit along the side and I can slide out my computer because I have the computer compartment completely there. Last thing that we normally have is to pack is the toiletry case. And that's the part that never fits. It's that headache in the 3D puzzle. So we use the space that we have between the wheels to create a bespoke niche where we fit exactly the toiletry case. So once I put the toiletry case in, I can keep my space nice and open for easy packing. And that allows me to make the smallest size trolley possible. That was crucial, because when I travel in most places, again, Hong Kong, wow, super efficient. I walk out of immigration and my luggage is on the belt. When I fly to Brussels, I wait for 1 hour for my luggage to come out. And when I fly to Paris, it's another hour. So if I have 5 cities to do in 7 days, I spend 1 working day basically waiting at luggage belts. So not being forced to, with any airline, to check in was a crucial element of the project. So that's why it's very compact. Yet I still have enough space to pack properly. Problem though, is my jacket doesn't fit, obviously in such a small space. So we made then a suit compartment that you can fold and hook with 2 hooks in the back at the top and with magnets at the bottom so that it doesn't bang around. And like that also, I have my suit nice and unwrinkled by the time I arrive. And last but not least, the type of fabric. Because we don't have to check it in, we could take a little bit more freedom. We don't have to take the heavy-duty nylon fabric. Again, I come from the airplane, I go to my first meeting, I arrive with my suit with a heavy-duty thing, like my image doesn't match, and I can only do a first impression once. So that's why we took a polyester fabric that then is coated with a hydrophobic coating, so I can pour my coffee over there and it will be fine. but at least it looks like it rolled out of the tailor shop together with my suit. So I make a much better impression. And also here, a little video, and that's the last of it. So you see the whole thing in action. And if you're interested, here on the website, you can find more stories, like more products, how we apply that way of working, that way of thinking, with some proper copywriting, as you suggested before. Thank you very much.